Trick or treat? Every day this month, we've been asking you guys whether or not you've been tricked or treated to our Halloween fun and not so fun facts. Now here's a collection of all the facts with some bonuses at the very end. Enjoy!
Did Halloween start off as a harvest festival? Treat! Halloween began as a Gaelic festival that marked the end of the harvest season and the coming of winter. It's also the time when the veil between the living and the spirit world are thinnest, allowing spirits to roam the mortal plane.
Our Halloween costumes are a recent addition to the tradition. Trick! The idea of dressing up and taking candy from strangers on Halloween is an old tradition that dates back to the 16th century that was thought to help the living blend in with the roaming spirits for protection.
Are spirits the only thing to look out for during this time? Trick! Other creatures like the Banshee, the Dulahan, and others, generally called the Aosi, pass through the veil of the living and the dead with other spirits during Samhain, bringing with them good or bad fortune.
Were candies not the only things given out during this time? Treat! In Gaelic tradition, it was customary to leave and hand out foods such as cakes, bread, and mashed potatoes to roaming spirits, creatures, and costumed people. This was later adapted to soul cakes and pies by Christians for All Hallowtide.
Did the Romans help in the creation of Halloween? Treat! When Romans invaded Gaelic and Celtic lands, they brought with them Christian traditions that merged with other pagan holidays. Thus, Samhain evolved into All Hallowtide, which is made up of All Hallows Eve, All Saints' Day, and All Souls' Day.
Was trick-or-treating always a thing? Trick! Modern trick-or-treating may have come from a European tradition called souling, where sweet and spice cakes with dried fruit called soul cakes were given out. Over the next few centuries, soul cakes eventually turned into the candies that we know of today.
Were jack-o'-lanterns once made of turnips? Treat! Jack-o'-lanterns could range from turnips to carrots and were quite frankly horrifying. They were lit for all sorts of purposes depending on where you're from. They could have represented wandering souls or were used to ward off harmful spirits from one's home.
Are black cats and dogs adopted more around Halloween? Treat! Black cats and dogs are normally less likely to be adopted due to superstition, but they become more popular during the spooky season due to sinister reasons. Hence, some people don't offer any of these furry friends at this time for their protection.
Are more babies born around Halloween? Trick! A study from Yale School of Public Health suggests that mothers tend to subconsciously avoid giving birth around Halloween due to superstitions. They say that the mother's state of mind may influence the hormonal balances associated with triggering childbirth.
Is it bad to be born on Halloween? Trick! Although some old wives' tales suggest that being born on Halloween brings bad luck, there really isn't anything to back this up. However, other tales say Halloween babies may get the ability to see ghosts and some immunity to evil spirits.
Were treats used to bribe vandalists on Halloween? Treat! Foods were given to people during Samhain to avoid getting tricked by spirits. But during the Great Depression, kids were known to vandalize property, so candies were given out to appease them. Thus, the modern trick-or-treating was born.
Are crossroads a bad place to be in during Halloween? Treat! They say crossroads are the place to be to meet spirits and make deals. According to old superstition, on Halloween night, you can meet with the devil here and he can grant you any wish in exchange for your soul.
Do people search for their true love on Halloween? Treat! According to old customs, Halloween is a good time to find one's future lover. One way is to stare into a mirror in a pitch-black room with nothing but a candle lit. They say you'll see your spouse in the reflection.
Should you empty out your pockets on Halloween? Treat! They say if you pass by a cemetery on Halloween, you must empty out your pockets and turn them inside out, so that spirits won't come in and you won't be taking one on your way home.
Should you watch out for your candy this Halloween? Trick! Though you should always check for your candy regardless, the myth of finding needles, razors, and other strange objects in your candy isn't as widespread as the tale itself. But do remember not to take candy from strangers and only trick-or-treat in houses you're familiar with.
The killer clowns lurk in the woods during Halloween. Trick! In October 2016, there was a supposed clown craze where people reported seeing clowns all over the place, from the woods to the dark roads, and even people's porches, most of which were harmless pranksters. No one really knows who they were, what it was for, and why it happened, but it got so bad that McDonald's had to hide Ronald McDonald for a while.
Was there a killer bunny man running around during Halloween? Trick. The bunny man is a popular urban legend about a threatening-looking man dressed in a bunny costume carrying a hatchet. While this originated around Clifton Bridge in Virginia, now known as Bunnyman's Bridge, there is no such bunny man lurking in that bridge or any other bridge. But there's no harm in staying safe wherever you are this Halloween.
Were real unalive bodies mistaken as Halloween decor? Treat! There is that fear that the Halloween decorations on the front of your yard is real, and it has happened before. The last known report of an unalive body being misidentified as Halloween decor was around 2005, but fortunately, it isn't very common. It's more likely that it's a real person underneath that costume waiting to scare you.
Do some Halloween wigs come with some creepy crawlies? Trick. There's a story of this girl who bought a cheap wig for a Halloween party. A bit itchy, but she didn't think anything of it. That was until hundreds of baby spiders came crawling out onto her face. There seems to be no actual truth to this story, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't check your costumes beforehand.
Are there gangs out to get you on Halloween? Trick! According to this urban legend, a gang or a cult was going to hold an initiation rite where the members had to clap 31 people, one for every day of October. Luckily, this horrifying event was never held.
Did a talk show psychic predict a Halloween tragedy on a college campus? Trick. Although there have been tragedies occurring on Halloween in college campuses all throughout the world at some point, there are no records of a talk show psychic ever stating one would occur with any immediate accuracy.
Was the Michael Myers mask the face of another Hollywood star? Treat! Michael Myers' terrifying mask from the 1978 Halloween movie is the face of Star Trek star William Shatner, just shaven and painted white to look horrifying. Apparently Shatner didn't even know this until it was brought up in an interview, though he didn't seem to mind.
Did a kids' channel movie really show horrific gore? Trick. There's a creepypasta about the Nickelodeon movie Crybaby Lane that says it originally included scenes with gore and even cannibalism, that the full movie that includes this content is now considered lost media. This is, of course, untrue and just a creepypasta. The movie does exist, but not to this extent.
Did they use real blood in the movie Trick or Treat? Trick, there's quite a lot of blood shown in the 2007 movie Trick or Treat, but naturally, they couldn't use real blood. They had to keep a large pot of quote-unquote fake blood, which was chocolate. It had a chocolate minty flavor and was apparently delicious.
Was 911 actually called during the filming of Scream? Treat. During filming of the 1996 movie Scream, Drew Barrymore actually called 911 for real. It was on accident, of course, but it concerned authorities so much that the police called to ask why they kept calling just to scream.
Was there a holiday dedicated to Freddy Kreuger? Treat. In 1991, Los Angeles Mayor Tom Bradley declared September 13 to be Freddy Kreuger Day, which was the day before the release of the film Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. This didn't sit well with a lot of people who thought that it was absurd that there was a day that celebrated such a violent character.
Was the Great Pumpkin from the Charlie Brown movie real? Trick. Apparently, after the airing of the movie, the original cartoonist Charles Schulz received letters from a number of academics insisting on the real legend of the Great Pumpkin, and that it must have been based on something, but as far as we and Schulz knows, it's completely fictional and something he made up.
Was the Ghostbusters hotline real? Treat! It was! The director of the movie, Ivan Reitman, re-edited the TV commercial that appeared in the trailer to a working number. People could call the number and get a response. However, it was a Ghostbusters voicemail saying that they were too busy. So much for help.
Are some costumes illegal in some places? Treat. There's a law in Alabama that forbids you from wearing a fake mustache to church on Halloween, with the intention of making people laugh. I guess that means if it's not too funny, it's fine, but we're not quite sure where the line is drawn here.
Has Halloween been named after a vegetable? Treat! Halloween has many names from Mischief Night to Devil's Night, but there's some places that call it Cabbage Night. This is related to an old fortune-telling game where girls would use cabbages to predict their future husbands, or the modern game of throwing rotten cabbages at houses.
Did Stingy Jack do more than just trick the devil? Treat. Did you know that in the 1930s version of the Jack-o'-lantern story, that it was said that instead of bargaining with the devil after some tricks, Jack instead beat the devil's messengers with a flail to get immortal life?
Does crime sleep during Halloween? Trick! Crime rates appear to spike around Halloween season, given the late-night parties and excuses to go out in disguises. These crimes are often associated with the higher alcohol consumption that happens around this time as well, and they are usually vehicle thefts, vandalism, and disorderly conduct.
Do you only have trick-or-treating and parties on Halloween? Trick! Aside from running around in costumes, there's an old Halloween game called Snap Apple, where you stab an apple on one end of the stick and a lit candle on the other, and the goal is to eat the apple without getting any hot wax drop on your face. You might not want to try this out.
Does Halloween fall on a Friday the 13th? Trick! You'd be surprised how many people fall for this, but even then, it may confuse some given how the number 13 and number 31 appear similar. It's a little trick that can even get the best of us at times, especially with how perfect the whole concept seems. You know, Friday the 13th, Halloween, sounds perfectly spooky.
Are some people hiding substances in Halloween candy? Trick! This was a huge worry in the 70s, and there were instances of kids accidentally consuming candies laced with substances. However, currently, candies, brownies, and sweets containing these are usually not given out to trick-or-treaters, but rather they're being kept for adults for their own, leisurely consumption. How many of these did you know? Are there any that we didn't mention? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing for more spooks, tunes, and memes. And we'll catch you guys next time.